In the cold, empty space far from any living star, a huge old structure floated alone. The builders vanished 2 million years ago. Nobody knew their name. Now salvage ships from many worlds came here often. They searched for forgotten machines or rare metals that still had value. The coalition of 1,000 worlds sent teams to strip these ruins clean. One small crew found something new. A sealed door hid behind broken walls. The metal looked strange. It resisted every tool they tried. A young engineer from the lizard-like Skarath people lost patience. He fired a plasma cutter too close. The door cracked open, with a silent flash of light inside the vacuum. Air rushed out from a hidden chamber, even though no one expected air to remain. Inside the chamber they discovered rows of clear tubes. All tubes held frozen liquid that glowed faint blue. One tube stood larger than the rest. A black crystal sat at the center. The crystal pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. The team leader, a tall feathered being named Vera, ordered everyone to stay back. She felt wrongness in the air, even through her suit. They took pictures and sent them to the Coalition Science Station. Vera touched the crystal with a probe. The crystal cracked. A thin mist floated out. It moved against the lack of air. It found tiny holes in their suits and slipped inside. Nobody noticed at first. The mist carried something ancient, something made to kill. The makers called it the Apex Extinction Vector. They designed it long ago, when they ruled the galaxy alone. They wanted to remove every other thinking species. They planned to start fresh with only their own kind. The virus waited in perfect silence for 2 million years. It needed only one breath to wake up. The salvage team flew back to their main ship. They laughed about the strange find. They drank warm nutrient soup and told stories. None of them felt sick yet. The virus worked too slowly at the start. It needed time to spread quiet and careful. The first symptoms appeared. Crew members complained of tired minds and sore joints. They blamed long shifts and bad recycled air. The ship doctor ran basic scans. Nothing looked wrong. The virus hid deep inside cells. It changed small pieces of their biology every hour. Vera started to cough. She thought dust from the ruin caused it. She took medicine and rested. The cough grew worse. Black lines appeared under her feathers. She hid them from the crew. She feared panic on a small ship. The ship docked at Station Gamma 7, a busy hub for traders and diplomats. Thousands of beings from dozens of species walked the halls every day. Vera and her team stepped out. They carried report chips and sample boxes. They shook hands and shared hugs with old friends. Nobody wore full suits here. The air seemed safe. The virus loved this moment. It jumped from breath to breath. It rode on skin contact. It clung to clothes and hair. In one standard day, it reached every corner of the station. For home worlds, diplomats flew to capital planets. Messengers carried the invisible killer to 100 systems. On the beautiful crystal worlds of the Kael'thar people, the first deaths happened. These tall beings lived for centuries. Their bodies shone like glass when healthy. Now their skin cracked and fell away. They screamed in pain as inner fluids leaked out. Doctors tried every cure. Nothing worked. The virus laughed at their medicine. It learned from each failed treatment and grew stronger. Methane-breathing Varun and their hive ships felt the change next. Queens stopped laying eggs. Workers collapsed in tunnels. The smell of death filled every chamber. Young ones tried to save their mothers. They failed. The virus moved too fast now. Even the machine minds of the synth collective suffered. Their living pilots and thinkers died one by one. Metal bodies kept moving without souls. The collective broadcast warnings across all channels. The message repeated again and again. Plague spreads without mercy. No known species resists. Human ships heard the warnings too. Humanity joined the galaxy only 200 years earlier. Many aliens still saw them as loud children with crude ships. Human captains listened carefully. They checked their crews. No one felt unusual. No black lines appeared. No one coughed blood. A human doctor named Marco Reyes worked on a mixed hospital ship. He treated sick aliens every day. He wore only a simple mask and gloves. Other doctors from advanced species wore heavy sealed suits. Marco touched patients. He took blood samples. He comforted dying children from far worlds. Nothing harmed him. Marco sent reports to Earth. The reply came fast. Stay calm. Collect data. Humans show no serious symptoms. The virus attacks a protein marker almost every galactic species shares. Humans lack this marker. Their bodies fight in different ways. Word spread slowly at first, then faster. Panic grew on every channel. Alien leaders met in secret, asked one question. Why do humans live while we die? Coalition scientists studied old records. They found the truth. The virus came from the same precursors who vanished long ago. Those ancient beings hated competition. They built the killer to clear the galaxy for themselves. They never met humans back then. Humans did not exist yet. The virus had no instruction for human bodies. It tried to attack anyway. Human immune systems treated it like any other germ. They learned. They adapted. They won. A final broadcast went out from the Coalition High Council. The voice sounded tired and broken. The ancient virus will eradicate every species in the galaxy except humans. Silence followed the message across the stars. Ships stopped moving. Trade ended. Worlds waited for the end. Only one species kept working. Only one species kept breathing. Only humans stayed alive. The galaxy started to notice. Earth ships flew without fear. Human voices answered calls for help. They brought medicine and food. They carried hope, even when hope seemed gone. Aliens looked at humans with new eyes. Some felt gratitude. Some felt fear. Some felt deep, bitter envy. The great dying had only just begun. The galaxy watched in horror, as death spread faster than any fleet could travel. Entire worlds turned quiet in weeks. The once bright trade routes became graveyards of drifting ships. Alien governments tried everything they could think of. They burned infected planets from orbit. They sealed borders with walls of warships. They pumped every kind of medicine into their people. Nothing stopped the virus. It changed its shape every time doctors found a weakness. On the shining capital of the Kelthar, a great crystal tower once held the finest healers. Now the tower stood empty, except for rows of bodies covered in broken glass-like skin. The last living Kelthar scientist broadcast a weak message before she died. She said the virus learns. It watches our defenses and builds new attacks. We cannot outthink something that never sleeps. Vorun hive ships floated dead in deep space. Queens who ruled for thousands of years lay still. Their children tried to keep the hives alive. By one, the methane air turned thick with the smell of rot. Young workers carried their mothers to cold storage bays, hoping future medicine could bring them back. Deep down, they knew no future remained. The Synth Collective lost their organic minds first. Pilots, who linked flesh to metal machines, began to rot inside their shells. The machines kept flying on autopilot. But without living pilots, the ships wandered aimless. Metal voices begged for help across empty channels. No answer came. Desperate leaders turned their eyes toward Earth. They sent fast couriers with pleas written in every language. Humans, please share your secret. We die while you stand untouched. Help us, or the galaxy ends forever. Human ambassadors listened quietly. They wore simple clothes. No heavy armor. No sealed suits. They walked among dying aliens and offered calm words. We do not have a cure yet. We have only our own bodies that refuse to break. We will share what we learn. Hopeful dawn arrived at a ruined coalition station. The station held thousands of patients from 20 species. Doctors from those species had already died. Human teams stepped aboard. They carried basic kits, masks, gloves, simple scanners, nothing fancy. They worked without fear. A human doctor named Elena Voss led the group. She had gray hair and steady hands. She examined patients hour after hour. She took samples from dying lungs. She watched blood under microscopes. She wrote notes in a small pad. She spoke softly to scared aliens. Hold on a little longer. We study. We learn. We fight the same enemy. Alien survivors watched her work. They saw her cough once or twice. They saw her wipe sweat from her face. They saw her temperature rise for a day. Then she drank water, rested a few hours, and went back to work. The virus tried to kill her. It failed every time. Elena sent her first big report to Earth. The virus attacks a protein we do not have in our cells. Our immune system sees it as trash and removes it fast. Some humans get mild sickness. Our bodies remember the shape and make better weapons next time. This is not magic. This is biology we built over millions of years on a harsh world. The report reached alien leaders. They read it again and again. Some felt hope, some felt rage. Why do humans get this gift while we suffer? Why did the ancients not make the virus perfect? Why did they leave one species alive by accident? Envy turned dark on some worlds. Secret meetings happened in hidden rooms. Powerful families talked about taking human children. They said if we cannot cure ourselves, we must become like them. They planned raids on small human colonies. They dreamed of farms where human bodies grew for study. Other leaders begged instead. They sent gifts of rare metals and ancient art. They offered alliances. They asked for human blood plasma, like it was the last clean water in a desert. Human ships carried tanks of plasma to dying stations. Aliens drank it like medicine. Some lived longer. A few even recovered for short times. Then the virus learned again and struck harder. On a mixed hospital station near Seoul, a Vorun worker crawled to Elena. She had only days left. Her voice came weak through the translator. Please tell me why you help us. You gain nothing. We will all die soon. Elena knelt beside her. I help because I can. I see a child afraid. I see a mother in pain. I cannot walk away. My people know loneliness. We spent long years alone on one small planet. Now we meet others. We refuse to watch you vanish without trying. The Vorun worker touched Elena's hand with a trembling claw. Thank you for not fearing us. Humans could run away. You stay. Word of human kindness spread among survivors. They called humans stubborn monkeys. They called them fools. They called them the last light in a dying sky. Meanwhile, human scientists worked without rest. Labs on Earth and Mars filled with virus samples. They grew it in special tanks. Of ways to slow it, they failed most times. They kept going. One team found something strange. Human white blood cells did not just kill the virus. Sometimes they ate pieces of it and kept the shape inside. They used those pieces to train other cells faster. This was new, even to humans. A young researcher named Jamal Carter made the discovery. He jumped from his chair and shouted, "We adapt in real time. The virus teaches us to become stronger. Every sickness makes the next human harder to kill." The news reached alien refugees. They listened in silence. Some cried. Some laughed bitter laughs. One old Kael'thar diplomat spoke to a human guard. Your kind turns poison into power. We build towers to the stars. You build armor inside your flesh. Perhaps the ancients feared you most of all. Raids began soon after. A small fleet of purity ships attacked a human mining colony. They wanted live samples. They landed troops. They tried to take children. The human colonists fought back with tools and hunting rifles. They used drills as spears. They dropped rocks from cliffs. They held the line until rescue ships arrived. The Purity fleet retreated. They left messages behind. We must stop the last carriers before the virus claims everything. Humans, you carry death even if you do not feel it. Human fleets answered with their own message. We carry life too. Come take it if you dare. The galaxy split in two. One side begged for human help. The other side hunted humans like dangerous animals. Both sides knew the truth. The end came closer every day. Only one species still grew stronger. Only humans kept building hospitals in the middle of plague. Only humans refused to quit. The great silence spread wider. Worlds that once sang with billions now echoed with wind. Human voices answered the quiet. They said, "Hello. We are still here. Come if you can. We wait for you." The dying listened. They hoped. They feared. They wondered if the stubborn upstarts would truly save what remained. They would simply inherit empty stars. Years passed, while the virus ate through the last strongholds of alien life. Billions became millions. Millions became thousands. Thousands became lonely echoes on dying worlds. Ships no longer flew in formation. Fleets turned to ghost armadas that drifted until engines failed forever. The once mighty coalition shrank to a handful of hidden bases where leaders clung to fading power. Humans became the center of everything. Refugee ships arrived at Sol every day. Some carried only a few survivors. Some carried thousands, packed tight in cold sleep pods, hoping to wake on a safe world. Earth orbitals grew crowded with alien domes. Hospitals stretched across moons. Mars turned green with emergency farms built to feed the sick. Venus clouds hosted floating labs where human doctors tested new ideas. Human medics worked without pause. They learned alien biology fast. They spoke in broken versions of a dozen languages. They held claws and tentacles while hearts stopped. Gravity with quiet words. Many humans cried at night. They felt the weight of a galaxy on their shoulders. They kept going anyway. Some aliens found comfort in human care. A young Kael'thar girl named Lyra survived longer than anyone expected. She lived in a sealed ward on Luna. Her skin no longer shone, but she smiled when humans visited. She drew pictures of old crystal cities. She gave them to nurses. She said, "Thank you for not leaving me alone." Not every alien felt grateful. Fear and anger grew in dark corners. A group called the Purity Remnant formed from surviving elites. They came from old noble houses and military clans. They believed the virus served a purpose. It removed the weak. Now humans blocked the final cleansing. They saw humans as the flaw in the ancient plan. They decided to fix it. The Purity Remnant built secret fleets. They used clubbed ships stolen from dead navies. They gathered weapons from abandoned armories. They planned strikes on human colonies. Kill the carriers before the galaxy finished dying. They whispered to each other, humans must end so purity can begin. Their first attack hit a small mining world called Haven 4. Humans there dug rare crystals to trade for food. The Purity ships dropped from hyperspace without warning. They fired kinetic rounds at surface domes. They landed troops in black armor. They searched for children first. They wanted live samples to study human immunity. Colonists on Haven 4 refused to run. They grabbed mining lasers. They turned drills into spears. They rigged explosives from fuel tanks. They fought in tunnels and open craters. A mother named Sarah led a group of families. She held a plasma torch and shouted, "We built this home. We keep it." The battle lasted 3 days. Purity troops died one by one. They expected easy victory. They found humans who fought like cornered animals. Human reinforcements arrived late. They came in old freighters, packed with volunteers. The newcomers rammed enemy ships. They used cargo pods as missiles. They dropped EMP bombs that fried alien shields. The Purity fleet broke and ran. They left bodies behind. They left messages carved into station walls. You invite your own doom by sheltering the unclean. Humans answered with broadcasts. We shelter the living. We bury the dead. We do not ask permission to help. More attacks followed. Purity forces hit research stations. They tried to poison human water supplies. They sent assassins to Earth cities. They failed every time. Humans watched for danger now. They built hidden defenses. They trained civilians in basic combat. They turned schools into shelters. They refused to hide. Elena Voss still led medical teams. She grew older, but her hands stayed steady. She visited a refugee camp on Titan. Thousands of aliens lived there in plastic bubbles. They watched her walk past. They reached out weak fingers. She stopped to talk. She listened to their stories. She promised nothing but effort. Dying, Vorun Elder called her close. His voice rasped through a mask. You humans confuse me. You lose friends every day, yet you smile. You see death everywhere, yet you plant trees. Why do you not despair? Elena sat beside him. I despaired once long ago on my homeworld. We faced our own plagues. We lost cities, we lost families. We learned despair wastes time, so we choose work instead. We choose hope, even when it hurts. The elder closed his eyes. He whispered, You are the virus now. You spread life where death should win. Perhaps the ancients feared exactly this. Word of human resistance spread among survivors. Some aliens joined human crews. They flew on human ships. They helped in labs. They guarded hospitals. They said if we must die, let us die fighting beside the last one standing. The Purity remnant grew desperate. They gathered their remaining strength. They launched a massive strike at Earth itself. They sent every ship they had. They aimed to burn the homeworld and end the human. Human fleets met them far from Sol. They used tricks no one expected. They hid behind asteroid fields. They sent decoy signals. They turned merchant vessels into battering rams. They detonated old nuclear mines left from ancient wars. The Purity fleet shattered under the assault. Many ships exploded in bright, silent fire. The rest fled into deep space, never to return. In the aftermath, a single transmission came from the last Purity leader. His voice sounded broken. We sought purity. We found only emptiness. Forgive us if you can. We were afraid. Humans did not answer with hate. They sent rescue teams to the wreckage. They pulled survivors from broken hulls. They treated wounds. They offered water. They said fear makes bad choices. We understand. The galaxy grew quieter now. Entire sectors turned dark. No signals came from once busy systems. Only human voices remained. They talked on open channels. They shared music. They told jokes. They read stories to children of many species. Kept the lights on. A human governor stood on a balcony, overlooking a crowded station below. Aliens walked beside humans. Some held hands. Some leaned on shoulders. The governor spoke to a reporter. The old world's end. We did not choose this role. We accept it. We will not let the dark take everything. In hidden vaults on Earth, scientists still worked. They mapped the virus. They cataloged every change. They searched for ways to slow it for aliens. They knew success might never come. They tried anyway. Outside, the stars waited, patient and cold. Humans looked up. They saw empty skies. They felt the loneliness. They refused to bow. They built more ships. They planted more seeds. They held more hands. They carried the weight of a silent galaxy on stubborn shoulders. The great dying continued. Only humans kept breathing. Only humans kept caring. Only humans refused to let the end arrive without a fight. Decades rolled on like slow, heavy waves. The virus finished its long, cruel work. It burned through every pocket of life it could reach. Whole sectors became silent tombs. No lights blinked on old stations. No voices answered calls. Only dust drifted where cities once stood. The few aliens who still breathed clung to human space. They lived in sealed habitats on the edges of Sol. They wore thick suits when they walked outside. They spoke in whispers, afraid the virus waited in every shadow. Some species survived only as handfuls of individuals. Others lasted as scattered family groups. They depended on human kindness to eat, to breathe, to remember who they once were. Humans changed during those hard years. Billions of infections ran through their bodies, each time a little different. The virus attacked and failed again and again. Human cells learned fast. They built walls inside flesh. They remembered every shape of the enemy. Children born in those times carried iron immunity from the start. They played in plague zones, wearing only light masks. They laughed while adults from other worlds watched in wonder. These new humans shrugged off strains that once dropped warships full of crew. Scientists on Earth and in orbital labs did not stop. They took the virus apart piece by piece. They mapped its every trick. They turned its weapons against it. They made weak versions of the ancient killer. These new strains carried helpful genes instead of death. They fixed broken organs. They repaired old wounds. They gave long life to those who received them. Humans called this gift the vector gift. They used it first on themselves. Then they offered it to any alien strong enough to try. A Varuan survivor named Kresh became the first to accept the treatment. His body had almost given up. Queens of his line died centuries earlier. He lay in a white room on Mars. Human doctors explained the risk. The weak virus might kill him faster, it might heal him, it might do nothing, and said, "I have nothing left to lose. Give it to me." They injected the modified strain. Kresh slept for 3 days. When he woke, his lungs cleared. His color returned. He stood on shaky legs. He walked to a window. He saw red dust storms outside. He cried silent tears. He told the doctors, "You turned our executioner into a friend. How can I ever repay this?" The doctors smiled and said, "Live. That is enough." Word spread among the last aliens. Some refused the treatment. They said it insulted their pride to accept human mercy. Others lined up for days. They waited in quiet rows. They hoped for one more chance. Many survived. Some died anyway. The virus stayed clever, even when tamed. Not every body could hold the change. Human explorers returned to dead worlds. They wore light suits now, not heavy armor. They walked through empty streets. They found old libraries. They found broken statues. They found gardens gone wild. They collected seeds and data. They brought back memories of species no longer alive. They built museums on Earth. They filled them with alien art and songs. They played recordings of languages fading from use. They said, "We keep you here. We do not let you vanish completely." On a ruined Kael'thar world called Prism, a human team landed. They found one last crystal spire still standing. Inside, an old archivist waited in a preservation pod. His body had lasted through sheer will. He woke when humans entered. He looked at them with dim eyes. "You come to loot our bones?" The team leader shook her head. "No, we come to listen. Tell us your stories. We will carry them forward." The archivist spoke for many hours. He told of golden ages. He told of wars. He told of the day the virus first appeared. He ended with a quiet wish. "Bury me under open sky. Let my crystals join the dust." The humans carried him outside. They dug a shallow grave. They placed him gently. They covered him with native soil. They left no marker, except a small stone carved with his name. The team stood in silence for a long time. Then they flew away, carrying his recorded words. Human cities grew strange and beautiful now. They mixed old Earth styles with alien designs. Curved crystal arches stood beside brick houses. Vorun methane pods nestled in green parks. Mixed children ran through streets. Some had human faces with faint scales. Some had feathers in their hair. Some breathed air and methane at once. They spoke many tongues in one sentence. They laughed at jokes no single species understood. A new generation rose. They called themselves the Bridge-born. They felt no fear of the virus. They saw it as an old teacher, not an enemy. They studied history. They learned the names of lost worlds. They promised to honor what came before. One day on a rebuilt station called Haven 9, a lone surviving diplomat from the old coalition met a human governor. The diplomat moved slow, his body held together by machines and vector treatments. He looked at the busy crowds below. Humans and aliens worked, side by side. Children played without suits. The diplomat asked, "Why do you not let us fade in peace? Why do you fight to keep scraps of us alive?" The governor thought for a moment, then answered, "Because we know what it feels like to be alone. We sat on one small world for ages. We dreamed of others. We feared we might never find anyone. Now we found you. We lose you too fast. We hold on tight. We build hospitals when others build tombs. We plant gardens on graves. We refuse to end alone." The diplomat nodded slowly. Perhaps the ancients made one mistake. They thought dominance meant wiping others away. You prove survival means sharing the stars. Quiet fell between them. The station hummed with life. The governor pointed to the stars outside. Many lights still shone, some human, some alien, some new and mixed. The galaxy breathes again. Not the same, not whole, but alive. Humans kept working. They rebuilt trade lanes. They sent ships to empty sectors. They searched for any sign of life. Found mostly silence. They kept looking. They said hope costs nothing. In deep vaults under Earth, the original virus sample waited, locked in cold storage. It sat behind many doors, marked with clear words. Apex extinction vector. Hold for study only. Never release. Scientists visited the vault sometimes. They looked at the black crystal. They remembered the day it woke. They felt the weight of what it almost did. They turned away and went back to work. They built better medicines. They taught children. They lived. The galaxy stayed wounded and empty in many places. Yet light returned slowly. Human voices carried across the void. They said, "Hello. We are here. Come home if you can. We wait with open doors." The stubborn species that should have died first became the one that refused to let the rest disappear. They carried the dead in their stories. They carried the living in their arms. They turned an ancient curse into a bridge. They walked forward together into whatever came next. Centuries slipped past like quiet breaths after a long storm. The virus no longer hunted. It became a memory locked in sealed vaults. Its power faded into history books and warning labels. Children learned its name the way they learned about ancient floods or dead stars. It tried to erase everything. It failed because one species refused to fade. The galaxy looked different now. Stars still burned bright, but fewer voices answered from the dark. Empty sectors filled slowly with human colonies. Ships carried families to worlds once ruled by crystal cities or methane hives. New cities rose with names that mixed old tongues. New Alexandria stood on a blue world where Kael'thar spires once touched clouds. New Tarsus grew in Varun caverns, now open to clean air. New Hivehome bloomed under domes that let sunlight kiss rebuilt gardens. Humans did not rule alone. They shared power with the Bridge-born. Mixed children walked every street. Some had skin that shimmered faint, like old Kael'thar crystal. Some breathed easier in thin air and thick methane. Some eyes caught light in ways no pure human eye ever did. They spoke languages braided from dozens of roots. One sentence might hold Earth words, Vorun clicks, and Kael'thar musical tones. They laughed at jokes built from many pains and many hopes. The Terran Concord replaced the old coalition. Its charter hung in every public hall, etched in every surviving script. The first line read simple and clear. We did not ask to be the last, but we refused to be alone. Delegates from human stock and mixed heritage sat at round tables. They argued, they compromised, they planned. They remembered the price paid by those who came before. Explorers still flew out. They searched quiet corners for any sign of forgotten life. They found mostly ruins. Sometimes they found small groups who hid from the plague long ago. These survivors joined the Concord. They brought stories and songs. They added their colors to the mix. The Concord grew not by conquest, but by welcome. In schools on 100 worlds, teachers told the old tale. They spoke of the vault that opened. They spoke of the mist that spread. They spoke of ships full of the dying. They spoke of humans who stayed when others fled. Children listened wide-eyed. They asked why humans lived when so many did not. Teachers answered with care. Our world was hard. It taught us to fight germs in ways others never needed. We got lucky. We got stubborn. We got kind when kindness hurt most. One evening on the edge of known space, a young bridge-born girl named Aisha stood on an observation deck. She looked at stars that felt too far apart. She turned to her grandfather, an old human named Tomas, who worked the early rescue ships. Why do the stars feel empty? She asked. Tomas put his hand on her shoulder. Because too many voices went quiet. We remember them by keeping lights on. We plant trees on empty worlds. We carve names in stone. We sing songs no one else knows. We fill the silence with our noise. Aisha nodded. She pointed to a faint nebula, glowing soft against black. Does anyone live there? Thomas smiled. Maybe one day we will go see. We always go see. That is what we do. Far below in the deep archive vault on Earth, the original crystal waited. Cold light bathed it. Triple locks guarded it. A small plaque stayed fixed to the case. Apex extinction vector. Do not use unless everyone else is already gone. Workers passed it daily. They never forgot what it held. They never forgot what it failed to do. On a warm colony world called Renewal, a festival happened every year. People gathered under open sky. Humans and mixed kin danced together. They told stories around fires. They shared food from old recipes and new ones. A Vorun elder, now very old and kept alive by vector treatments, stood to speak. His voice carried over the crowd, soft but strong. I once ruled a hive that stretched across 3 suns. My queen sang to 1,000,000 young. Now only I remain. Among you, I eat your bread. I breathe your air. I hear your laughter. I thank the stubborn ones who refuse to let me vanish. You did not save us all. You saved enough. You gave us time to say goodbye. You gave us time to begin again. The crowd stayed quiet for a moment. Then cheers rose. They lifted cups. They sang an old human song, mixed with Vorun drone. They danced until dawn. In quiet moments leaders met. They looked at maps of the galaxy. They saw dark patches where life once thrived. They planned slow expansion. They sent seed ships. They sent teachers. They sent builders. They said we grow outward, not to conquer, but to heal. One old human explorer named Mara flew alone sometimes. She took small craft to silent systems. She landed on cold moons. She walked among ruins. She left small markers, simple stones with names and dates. She spoke to the wind. We were here, together. We leave this mark, so you are not forgotten. She returned home each time. She told no one of these trips, kept them private, like prayers. The Concord built observatories on high mountains and orbital rings. Young astronomers scanned the void. They listened for signals that never came. They watched for lights that never blinked. They turned to each other and said, "The galaxy stays quiet. We make our own music." A child asked an astronomer one night, "Do you think anyone else survived out there?" The astronomer looked up at endless black. "Maybe somewhere. We keep calling, we keep waiting. If they hear us, they know where to find home. Years turned to more centuries. The virus became legend. Parents told it as a bedtime story to teach kindness. They said once a killer came from deep time, it took almost everything. One people stood firm. They helped, they healed, they remembered. Now we live because they chose life over loneliness. On a new world still raw with fresh soil, a monument rose, tall and plain. It carried no grand statues, only names. Thousands of names from species long gone. Base one line stood carved deep. We carry you forward. People visited often. They touched the stone. They whispered thanks. They walked away stronger. Humans and their mixed children looked to the stars. They felt the old loneliness. They pushed it back with work, with laughter, with stubborn hope. They built bridges across empty space. They refused to let the galaxy end in silence. They became the keepers of memory, the planters of seeds, the singers in the dark. They turned an ancient curse into the start of something new. They walked on, carrying the weight and the wonder of being the last who refused to be alone.